I'd first like to start off by thanking the chairwoman for holding this hearing and for her tireless commitment to advancing civil rights for the LGBTQ plus community in her long, remarkable career, and just like to go on the record and say that she will be missed. On the topic that brings us here today, I was heartbroken and stunned by the tragedy in Colorado Springs at Club Q. Political violence and hatred targeted at the LGBTQ plus community is completely unacceptable, and I want to thank the brave survivors for testifying today and for sharing their story. This important hearing ensures that the LGBTQ plus voices are being heard and that we are properly addressing the surge of anti-LGBTQ plus and anti-trans hate. So I'd like to start off with Ms. Hunt. Why do you think anti-LGBTQ hate has seen such a resurgence in the political climate in recent months? Is it connected to the midterms election? Is this a broader trend or both?
Thank you for that question. It is unfortunately a trend that we've seen over the past 6 years of trans people increasingly being seen as an acceptable target. It began in 2016 with the introduction of HB2, the first of the major bathroom bills in North Carolina. That was the first major piece of state legislation directly targeting trans people and trans people's lives. And that has kicked off a trend that has seen just an increase selection of trans people in particular as being an acceptable target for political attacks, for trying to score points and move the needle a little bit without any negative consequence, because we're just seen as an acceptable target to so many people. And the dehumanizing rhetoric that comes up and that fuels the wave of violence that we're seeing is inflamed by this treatment of us as an other, an acceptable target, and that is a really disturbing and unsettling trend to see as part of our political landscape.
Well, I appreciate your candor and hope that we can all recognize how the anti-LGBTQ hate is being weaponized, unfortunately, by the extreme right for purposes none other than to stoke fear and energize a backlash. With that, Dr. Meyer, we have seen the extreme right use its most powerful tool, right-wing media, in an effort to spread the message of hate. How has right-wing media contributed to the rise of anti-LGBTQ hate, specifically against trans people and their ability to live their authentic lives as themselves?
Well, to tell you the truth, I do not understand why, as Ms. Hunt just mentioned, transgender people have become such a target. We know that in most jurisdictions there are a small minority of the people, so a lot of the hate that comes this way, I have to assume, is an excuse, as was mentioned here already, and maybe to serve some political purposes that seems to be an expedient way to achieve by attacking transgender people. The way that rhetoric has developed over the past few years has been really concerning, and some of the things that I find really disturbing is the way this rhetoric has talked about they want to protect children from being sexualized, while that very notion that talking about having gay parents or talking about transgender people is sexualizing is completely wrong. It has nothing to do with sex any more than if you talk about a person having a mother and a father. So the purpose of this rhetoric is completely political, I think.
Thank you for that, Dr. Meyer. Are you aware of the extreme right targeting these anti-LGBTQ messages at minority communities and the African-American community in particular?
Well, of course, as I mentioned, homophobia and transphobia are embedded in American culture and history, as is racism, and the two combined create this environment where attacking LGBT people of color, and especially transgender women of color, are a huge target of hate.
Thank you. And with that, I see my time has expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The gentlelady yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Heiss, for 5 minutes.